I'd like to begin with a little story, as is my wont. I have to confess to you that I suffer from a particular affliction on direction challenged. I get lost in car parks and most places, but it gives me an opportunity to speak to strangers and give me an excuse. And I spend a lot of time up in Parliament House getting lost. I'm there every single week, but I still manage to get lost. And I have to say, despite the bad rap that the political classes get, everyone is extraordinarily kind, and Caitlin was looking at my watch, but also that Maria doesn't give me a jab in the thighs. People are extraordinarily kind and patient. I've never had a patronising word said to me, or not to my face anyway, and whether it's the members of Parliament themselves, the advisors, the security staff, the clerical staff, the hospitality staff, people see me wandering around lost and say, John, where do you want to go to? On one occasion last year, typically I was looking for a room that I didn't know my way to. It was actually the infamous monkeypox room, but there wasn't those meetings that you might have read about in the media. And I was standing in front of a lift, and the security dude was standing next to me, and you could see that I was lost. And he said, where do you want to go to, mate? And I said, oh, I want to go here. I showed him on my phone. He said, well, mate, for a start, you're on the wrong floor. And I said, well, that'd be right, I'm directionally challenged. I get lost everywhere. It's a genetic thing, I think. My daughter's inherited and everything. And he said, come on, I'll take you there. And that's typical. People won't let me go off by myself because they know it's lost again. So they usually take me by the hand and hand me over to the next person. And so he took me there, and he was standing there in the lift chatting away. And he says, so where are you from, mate? And he looks at my security pass and he goes, St. Vincent. You're from Vinny's, mate? I said, yeah. He goes, mate, come here, let me give you a hug. Thank you so much. You saved my life. Mate, I haven't done nothing for you. You're helping me, you know? He said, yeah. He said, no, you know what I mean. I said, yeah, great people, but, that's beautiful to hear, but, don't be grateful to me, mate. I haven't done anything. He said, no, let me tell you this story. Let me tell you this story. I said, mate, I'd love to hear the story. Thinking I'll use this in a talk or two, but... So he says, look, mate, I was in a bad place, I said, I'm getting my act together a bit now, I've got a few things I've got to sort out, but I've got this job in security. Things are falling in place really good, but for a stretch there I was unemployed for quite some time, and he said, I was living in Nowra, and sent me for a job interview in Wollongong. So I went along and went to the job interview, and then looked in my wallet and thought to myself, I haven't got two bob to rub together, how am I going to get home, how am I going to get the train home, haven't even got money for a pint and a cup of coffee. So he said, so I thought to myself, who will I go to? Who's going to help me? Whose door can I knock on? I know they'll help me. And he said, you said Vinny's, didn't you? And I said, yeah. He goes, oh, actually it's the cellar. He said, you don't mind me, I'm still doing about it. I said, I don't want to hear good news stories about the opposition. That's a joke, right? He said, I said, yeah. Really well, and chatted away all the way to my room, and that was that. And so I just thought, beautiful story. A couple of weeks later, I happened to be having lunch with the then National Secretary of the Salvation Army, and I said, Kelvin, I've got a story for you, I've got to be able to top this. And I told him, and he listened sagely as he always did, and he said, well, John, I can top that. And there was always a bit of friendly rivalry between Kelvin and I. He was always ringing about not having a uniform and, things like that. And anyway, he said, I can top the story, John. And I said, how's that, Kelvin? He said, well, since that happened to you, I've run into the same bloke in Parliament House. And he said, he's told me the same story. But at the end of the story, he handed me an envelope with $20 in it and asked me to give it to the Salvation Army people that helped him out in Wollongong. That is just beautiful. That's something you're not going to read on the front page of the paper when they're busy welfare bashing and putting the boot into the people who get pushed to the margins. And what does it tell me? What does it strike me prophetically? It tells me this. The people who, as Pope Francis talks about, the excluded, those that have been excluded by the market economy, by market idolatry, by capitalist systems that promise everything and deliver nothing, they're told to wait patiently that eventually the wealth will trickle down. But what do we hear? Do we hear the sound of the wealth trickling down? No, we hear the sound of the excluded still waiting, still being told, just wait. But when a person who is excluded gets a little bit of a step up, they don't wait. They don't wait to give. They're told to wait, but they don't wait. This bloke didn't wait until he was more financially secure. He wanted to give what happened to be a fairly significant proportion of his income so that others could be helped. And that just blows me away. And what it says to me is this, keeps coming back to me, a beautiful line from the scriptures. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. And I have to say, we have to ask ourselves, who's that? Who or what is our cornerstone? Is it wealth? Is it power? Is it institutional privilege? Is church structure our cornerstone? Is our position as a so-called helping profession, are we the cornerstone? Is political positioning the cornerstone? What's the cornerstone? If it's not the people who've been pushed to the margins, if it's not the crushed and the cursed, the shattered and the shunned, the excluded and exploited, i.e. the biblical people of God, who are not a religious group and certainly not an ethnic group, but are the ones who are completely shunned and humiliated and spat upon in whatever era or socio-economic formation we find ourselves in, if they're not the ones who are our cornerstone, then we have to ask ourselves, what is our purpose? Who are we here for, and how do we identify ourselves? Arundhati Lloyd, the great Indian writer and activist, puts it very beautifully. She says, no, there's no such thing as the voiceless. There are only the deliberately silenced and the preferably unheard. And so my question is, who do we listen to? And who are we going to listen to? Who are we going to believe? Who are we going to learn from? The privileged and the preferred, or the silenced and the unheard? The crushed and the cursed? Who are the ones who are going to play the chief role for us in defining our mission and our purpose? If we seriously want to change society and reorder it according to the radical logic of the Beatitudes that turns everything upside down, this will not be achieved by making the status quo our cornerstone, but rather going to the stone that the builders that society rejects. We will never achieve it by asking politely, by begging for concessions, by being grateful for the crumbs that fall from the table of the powerful. It's time that if we are true to that radical gospel message, that we stop deluding ourselves, that we can masquerade as supplicants when our task is actually to think and act as revolutionaries. The true focus of revolutionary change, as Audre Lorde, the great poet and theorist, puts it, the true focus of revolutionary change is never merely the oppressive situations we need to escape, but that piece of the oppressor which is planted deep within each of us. This is an incredible challenge, very personal, and the feminist movement gave us that beautiful insight that the personal is political. So that struggle for a new society is also a struggle for a new humanity. And the simple reality is, we will only, this is the point I'd like to leave you with, we will only achieve liberation for ourselves if we fight for the liberation of others. We will never achieve our own liberation if we ignore those who are in chains. Their struggle is our struggle. In the words of Lila Watson and a group of Aboriginal activists in Queensland in the 1970s, if you have come to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together.
about CatholicCare in the Northern Territory, which is my favourite subject. And I was just talking to Dale West before this, and he said, "You have prepared something, haven't you?" And I said, "I kind of have," but it is talking about the work that we do at CatholicCare. And when thinking about the topic mission, making a difference in a changing world, for us that we make a difference primarily in the way that we do the work. So for us, it's not just about the outcome, but it's how we get there. And as an organisation, we have, as a diocese, we're a missionary diocese, which is another way of saying a poor diocese, big, very vast. So we have offices, right through in the APY lands, right down the south of the Northern Territory, in places like Tsorbaris and Apatoula, very small communities you probably haven't even heard of, right through the centre, through to the Tiwi Islands and Lloyd. So we have a couple of hundred staff delivering services through a very vast area. And one of the challenges in doing that is how do you maintain a culture that is very much aligned with a mission in the Catholic tradition. And that's something as an organisation we've worked really hard to understand and to invest in. So as an organisation we have a mission facilitator, a person who looks after mission and culture. The owner is here today, and we've had a position like that for around 10 or so years, so it's not something that's new to us, but it's something that we realised that in order to be the service that we wanted to be, we had to have mission integrated as part of the work that we do. So it's not an add-on, it's not just something we do in orientation, it's a formation that happens all the time with our staff on an ongoing basis. When we look at things like our strategic directions, it's not about a visionary document that's about growth or NGO domination in the Northern Territory. It's really about how we do our work. So it talks about things like leadership, about culture. The reason that we have 13 offices throughout the territory is because we believe that we need to be where people are. So we don't have fly in, fly out, drive in, drive out. We invest in infrastructure, vehicles, staff. We have about 30% Indigenous staffing at the moment, so constantly investing in emerging workforce and building up a staff of local people who can serve their own community. We invest in partnerships and trying to understand what partnerships are and dialogue and how we work with all of those communities and all of those stakeholders in a way that talks to who we are as a Catholic organisation. And I think when there's so many things that have happened in communities, like interventions, like just the long-term disadvantage, I think for us, with our Catholic identity and traditions, that what we offer is a sense of certainty, that we're there beyond contract periods, that we really commit to a community. And I think that our experience with community shapes who we are and then adds to our identity, and it builds on our own culture, and mission is integrated into that. So we hopefully model mission in the way that we do business and the way that we carry out our work every day. We try to make mission as part of the living culture of the organisation. We have a RAP, Reconciliation Action Plan, that really talks to how we engage with Aboriginal people and our Aboriginal staff, because you can become very complacent when the majority of your clients are Indigenous. When you have a lot of Indigenous staff, you can sort of feel satisfied that you're doing enough. But this is really trying to drill down and say, well, how do we do it better? How do we increase our level of Indigenous leadership in our organisation? How do we honour what our clients and communities bring to us? So that's really a little bit about CatholicCare and how we see mission. It's really integral to who we are and how we
firstly to say what an honour it is to be here. Thank you. 2011 I was asked to speak on the panel, and it was in honour of Miriam MacKillop, and that was pretty special as well. I guess I want to sort of pay our respects, or my respects, to our elders that were injuring people on this land, but also to the board of directors. I'm one of the board members of MacKillop Family Services, and it's an honour to be part of such an amazing organisation. And in the spirit of Catherine McCauley, Edmund Rice and Mary MacKillop, we're sort of stewards of this organisation, carry that forward. I was asked this question: how does Al Curtin understand the mission of our church with the Catholic social services that we offer? And there's a quote here: "In the spirit of Mary MacKillop, he made a life-giving difference to so many." I say there's three pillars for me. The first is what I would call spiritual discernment, meditation, mindfulness, prayer. It's such an important part of what we do. I've been working in the sector now for about 15 years, and as Maria said, I'm a senior practitioner of the team that works out in Casey, in Cranberry. I really wanted to get to that talk last night, but I was with the police, ironically, working with a client that we work with, who's effectively a victim of family violence, vicarious trauma and so forth. And I got on the train at something like 5:30 from Cranberry, and I rang my wife and said, guess what? There's no way I'm going to get into the city by 6. I might have made it by 7:15, but I was apologetic last night. So prayer, discernment, meditation, mindfulness, for us as Catholics, the Eucharist is obviously essential to our identity. It's a mystery, a mysterious encounter, if you like, both personal and communal. My daughter is, my 9-year-old daughter is going through the sacramental program, and last night we were talking about this, and we were saying, getting ready for the Eucharist, I said, do you get a gift? When you get a gift, what's it like to receive a gift? Do you can get a gift and sort of say, oh, I've got that gift and put it aside, or you can, embrace the gift, to nurture the gift, to do something about it. You might receive this gift and respect something of the giver that gave you the gift. And what do you think? And she's looking at me, sort of, and I thought, this is great, she's really processing what I'm saying. And then she said, it depends on the gift. so that's spiritual discernment. The second point is, I was in seminary for a few years. One of the things that really inspired me when I was doing my Bachelor of Theology was this bloke named Cardinal Joseph Cardine. And, there's a lot of great leaders here that have been formed in that framework of See, Judge, Act. And I would say I'm certainly one of them. There's a mentor of mine who's in his 90s now. I actually spoke to him on the phone last week to tell him about this, and he said, you're passionate about that See, Judge, Act. I said, yeah, it's actually it's a really important part of it. We can see something, absolutely judge it based on our faith, our tradition, our understanding, but we've got to take an action. I mean, even sitting on a fence is still something of an action. It's not a great action, but it's something. You've got to, for me, it's about taking that risk even further, doing something about it. He said to me, he remembers a friend of his who was an observer at the Second Vatican Council, and he said this guy had observed 3 great progressive theologians. One was Bishop Suhard, the other was the Dominican Yves Congar, and then there was this other one, Cardinal Joseph Cardine. And he said Suhard was too hard, Congar was longer, Cardine was sublime. Because See, Judge, Act, it sounds simple, but it is incredibly profound. And there's some great leaders that we've got, Catholic Social Services Victoria, who have been formed and trained in that continue to drive that through. So I'd say that's a second pillar. The third for me is what I call consistent positive role models. Vitally important. My background speaks for itself. When I was born, I was placed in the care of the Sisters of St Joseph, St Joseph's Babies Home in Broadmeadows, transferred from there to St Joseph's Children's Home in Surrey Hills. Went through the deinstitutionalisation in 1979-1980. We were transferred to family group homes, cottage homes, residential care units, and I can't remember whether I was 14 or 15, but at the ripe old age of being a teenager, I was placed into the care of a foster family. So, just as a plug for MacKillop.org, if anyone wants to be a foster carer, you're worth more than all the gold in the world. To praise someone we know well, Jessica Carlin. The consistent positive role models, I'd say, is, we've got the primordial role model, following someone like John Macquarie and Jesus, of course, through the Gospels. But there are so many consistent positive role models in our lives, and we're called in our professions, in what we do in social services, to be role models to others, a voice for the voiceless. We stand with those on the margins. We stand up for them if we have to. We challenge authority if we need to, absolutely. No doubt about that. But we need them in our own lives as well, whether we're CEOs, whether we're practitioners on the ground. And so the question is constantly, who are they for us? The challenge then, as well, if they let us down, if they abuse their authority, they abuse their power in any way, the fallback is that spiritual discernment, that meditation, that mindfulness, prayer. I'd argue that's a really significant part of it as well. I look around the room and I'm seeing a lot of people I know from many years. Role models, mentors, spoken to some of you. It's incredible to see you all. These have been role models of mine for many, many years. Consistent, positive role models. And in the sense, if it takes a village to raise a child, I'm happy to feed the child. It also means that you guys are the village, so you're kind of like the village people. I think I'll leave it there.
And whereas past and present, extend that respect to Indigenous people here today. I was really excited when Dennis gave me the phone call to say, will you be on this panel? And then as the time went on, I got more and more nervous and more daunted about what I might say. But it's a fun to be here, and it's really extraordinary to work with Catholic Social Services team, being peak bodies and the like. So today I just want to make a few reflections on my working life so far, and some key issues that continue to dog-saw that affect children and what lies ahead. But first of all, who are we? Because whilst there's lots of people in the room that might know me, there's a couple of my board members in the audience, not everybody would know who we are. Our mission as a peak body is for Victorian children, young people and families to be safe, happy and connected and get the support they need when they need it. We've been around for about 103 years and was established by female philanthropists in Melbourne who basically their early collective effort was about working for the poor in Melbourne. And over the last 100 years, the work of the centre has been tireless in advocating for children. When we were established, the census in 1911 was there were 4.5 million people in Australia with a median age of 24. And over 4% of the population was aged over 65. This was called old age, which I think is really interesting because I'm 52. The time was very different. Around the middle of the 19th century, the infant mortality rate was about 125 deaths per thousand. Women didn't get the vote until 1902, and Aboriginal people were given the right to vote in 1962. I say these things by way of understanding who we were, and then we can think about who we are. Interestingly, Australia enjoyed a high level of literacy, with 95% of the recorded population older than 5 able to read. I wonder if we still have that sort of statistic today. It was 30 years ago I completed the first of 2 nursing qualifications, and in those days it was very much a vocation, and nurses were pretty important people. Being here today and better appreciating our history, both the good and the bad, the way things were, I can be a bit rose-tinted glasses myself about the past, but we know it's more than all good. Couple this with my mum's long stint as a cottage mother, which is interesting to listen to our story, raising lots of kids. One might say there was some inevitability that about my path and my values and commitment to vocational work. Watching and continuing my mum give her life to the needs of the kids, and now other adults working with their mums, the schools, the department, just one person doing it all, was all really very uncomplicated. I won't talk about her anymore because she was amazing, but she did some good work. So roll on 25 years and the environment that we're in now. I mean, I must say, the sector I work in now, or the space I work in now, there's no resemblance to 25 years ago, and I'm sure you would feel that way too. Today we have partnership agreements, funding service agreements, accreditation, regulation, data sets, social impact bonds, royal commissions, CNFAs, it goes on and on and on. It feels very different. And whilst other children, certainly the children that are interested are doing really well, there's a piece in the paper today that sort of 85% of kids are doing really well. 1 in 30 children go to bed hungry and go to school hungry, so we're still not doing so well. Huge surge in reports to child protection, over nearly 100,000, 65,000 family violence incidents here in Victoria, and only 15% of eligible children known to child protection actually go to 3-year-old kinder. 1 in 4 Australian students, that's 25%, fail to complete secondary school, and only 1% of care leavers attend university. Children in care miss an average of 1.5 days per week of school, and we still have 197 children in detention. And I was really fascinated with the debate that was going on earlier about equality for women. So in terms of wage disparity, women are still earning 25% less than their male counterparts doing the same work. And if we want to link that to family violence, then there are some really big things that we might want to challenge the community about giving women some more economic power. So that's all the good stuff. But what's the world that my kids live in, and the world that your children live in, and the world that the kids that we care about live in? 12 to 18-year-olds are the only first generation that will be truly digital. The first generation. Medical and scientific progress is dramatic, and 70% of all relationships start online, and with self-driving cars. So how do we bring this all together? And here are some more thoughts about how we do that, and where we really need to focus. Staying true to our values is really tough, particularly if you're a service provider. And in the contracted environment, we're at times forced to make compromises. And those compromises were less years ago, but more so now. And we need to think about that when we decide to do the work that we do. We need to be proactive and prepared to adapt and change. We must be more family-directed and really consider that families come in many forms. And we've got to understand now, particularly in the funded sector, that actually really decides that the system no longer is the government. Today in this room there are professionals and non-professionals alike, and I think we've probably lost sight of the work that gets done in the non-professional realm, all that wonderful community work. Also critical to our reflection is the Royal Commission, both the Royal Commission that's running at the moment. I know you've got Robert Fitzgerald coming to talk to you tomorrow. For those of you who have heard from here, will give you more money in terms of what the challenges that he puts before you. But we must be very sad about our past, and we must make redress, and we must make sure those things don't happen again. If we get it right for Aboriginal children, Aboriginal leaders will tell you we'll get it right for non-Aboriginal children. I'm not going to go into the data about the appalling state of affairs for Aboriginal kids in Australia. We will need to work through the complexity. Who's on Twitter in this room? Who is on Twitter? I know John Falzon is. It's such a fast-moving pace. The social, the sort of digital age that's in front of us, I have to ask my kids how to do things, and I don't consider myself that old. But we are going to have to get used to the changing world that our children are living in. And without putting too fine a point on it, we must work together. It's who we are. Anything but lets us fall down. And it isn't always the case that we always do that. There are very few ways of activism. You look at the Rosie Bailey work, and you look at some of the new innovations that young people are doing. The traditional ways of doing advocacy are not going to necessarily cut it. So we really need to think within our communities, within our faith communities, how we might want to use some of those ideas. We have to remain authentic and think about the incongruencies in the way we think, the way we work. And I was sort of reflecting on the comments of the wonderful speaker before, that mercy is important, but not when it others people. And I think working alongside people and working with people is really challenging if it can inadvertently be patronising. So we need to keep that in mind. There's some incredible leadership in this room, and particularly within the faith community. I have mostly worked in faith-based organisations, and I'm proud to say so. And I grew up learning from many of those leaders. But there are still many serious challenges ahead, and we know what they are. And there's an urgency about dealing with them and accepting when we're wrong. We must model equality, inclusivity,